Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Roberto. If you're new here, thanks so much for dropping by. Hopefully you enjoy it and you can watch the other episodes. If you're returning back and you're eagerly awaiting the next installment, thank you so much. I think you're very cool. So this week we're going to be fitting the CNC Racing rear sets. So I'll do a bit of a, sort of slow-mo so you can sort of see the ones that we're fitting. Now, with any rear set, they're normally fairly easy and not that complicated to actually fit. They are, however, or can be sometimes, very, very, very hard to actually set up correctly, as in the leverage, if it's too high or too low, how much slack you've got, how much movement to change the gear lever, almost to the point where you need a degree in sort of, rocket science to, set them up correctly. There are people, however, that are very good at doing that, and I actually had one of them help me with the hyper because I just couldn't get it to work efficiently and was missing a lot of gears. So there are people out there that can help, and we'll make mention at the end of the video on the guys that I use to help me with the hyper. So anyway, today we're going to be fitting these. Now, as I just said before, they can be very hard to set up. However, with these, not only are they easy to fit, CNC Racing have actually got a chart or a diagram. You have to go online because they haven't actually put it in the box. They've given me all the how to build it all, but they haven't actually put this thing, so I'm glad I checked. And it actually gives you for every, so you can see all the little holes, so adjustments. You can make it higher, lower if you're short or tall, depending on your build. They actually give you the stock mounting holes to the stock rear set, so you know exactly where to go, so you can set them up with the stock, and then you can ride around for a bit and go, right, I need to be higher or lower, and adjust to obviously your desired sort of feel for the bike. So I thought that was really cool, because a lot of the times it's just guesswork. I think it's there, or you have to measure up and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to be fitting today. Now, while I was looking at this, because we're taking off the rear sets, there was an area there where I want to take off the chain hugger strap thing where the chain actually runs on. So I figured, well, while I'm there, I might as well do the sprocket as well. Again, like I said in my previous ones, I don't like taking things on and off a million times. I want to do whatever I can at any given time if I've got the parts to do it, so it's all done at once. We're going to show you on the bike a couple of little weird things that I noticed back only a couple of years ago with the first Panigale. So let's move over to that now and start getting stuck into it. Okay, cool. Okay, before we start removing the rear sets, this is tip time for you guys. When I received my first Panigale, I think it was very early 2018, was the very first to be delivered into the state. We did the paint protection on it. The dealer came after dropping it off a couple of days later before we began, and said they had to fit a part to it for ADR/safety concerns and so on and so on. So what they actually fitted was this cover that actually covered the chain to stop people putting their foot into the chain, because if it wasn't there, you know how your foot always sort of tends to jump up and sort of get mangled. No, you don't. Okay, cool, because it doesn't normally happen, but again, for safety concerns, they did it. The drama with having this cover on, and again, this is only my personal opinion, and also I've seen it, is that it can move, and what happens is you have two metal bits that hit, and you'll start to actually chip your swing arm, which is not cool. Now, I have found out from the guys next door, Alex in particular in parts, that you can fit a Panigale chain guard. From that will bolt straight on, and you won't have these two little angle uprights with obviously thread that this mounts on. So that'll just be nice and smooth, and it will open it up, and I think it's going to look fantastic with a nice gold chain as well. It will really show that off. So part number will be scrolling down the bottom, so you can speak to your local Ducati dealer if you've got a Streetfighter, and you can actually purchase that bit, or you can just chop it off and make it look somewhat neat, but it is plastic, so good luck with that. All right, let's move on to removing the rear sets. Okay, so we've removed the factory rear sets, they're just over there. We've unboxed all the CNC Racing rear sets, all the nuts and bolts. We've got the instructions, everything's ready to bolt together. Make sure you always use the thread locker. Now, if you've ever played Lego as a kid, it's really straightforward. Everything just sort of shows you where to go and all the bolts and stuff. So I'm just gonna have a look here and, what the Okay, well, it was very, very daunting looking at millions of nuts and bolts and screws and plates, but in actually doing it, it actually wasn't too bad. It was fairly straightforward. We started with the left-hand side, the gear side, because it seemed a lot easier than the braking side. And it all went together really well, as you'd expect. It was great having that neutral setting, so you know that it's stock. What you do need to do but is jump on and sort of feel the pedals to see obviously the levels and adjust them to suit, you know, your riding style. So that was pretty straightforward. They look obviously amazing. I think they really sort of highlight. What I love about this set is that it's got the silver, which matches in with the stock OEM clamp, and then it follows the red, silver, red sort of theme. So I think it looks really nice. It is missing, however, one thing, and that's this little cap, which hides that ugly hole, and then going red, I think sort of ties it all in. The only thing I might do is I've got on order anodized red screws from CNC to change them to red, because I think that'll look pretty trick, and I may change the peg to black so it kind of matches in, you know, with the foot peg. One thing to note, they do obviously bend for the street, which is great. With the foot peg, just make sure the bend is actually this way. I've seen some people will put it upwards, and obviously when you're braking it's going to move around, so you want it to be stationary that way, but then if you did unfortunately have a small little accident, at least it's going to bend in that way and not up and down when you're actually pushing on the foot. So from this now we're going to look at sprockets. So let's jump up and we'll have a look, and I'll run you through sort of a two-piece sprocket and how it all works. So we're just going to run through two-piece sprockets for dummies. This will just give you an indication of all the parts that you need. Many times people go on, you know, websites, they order two-piece sprockets and they find out that they've missed a nut set, or they've missed, you know, a spacer and stuff like that. So we're going to break it down. Now, before we begin, the biggest thing you need to make sure you do whenever you're ordering or buying a two-piece sprocket design is you need to match it from the same brand. So cast your eyes back 2016, a young Roberto was on the internet. There was a website called Design Course. It was awesome. I don't think they're around anymore. And I purchased my first two-piece sprocket and I was so excited. So I bought a ring from, I think it was AEM factory in Italy, and then I bought a hub adapter from some other brand. Took 7 years to come. From the UK, got it all, and then found out it didn't work. And then when I spoke to them, I said, "Oh guys, this is not working," and they're like, "Oh yeah, because you need to, you know, match it up." And I was like, "Awesome!" Couldn't have told me that when I got the order, but hey, you know. Anyway, so the reason for that is that every brand has their own sprocket mounting pattern to suit their hub adapter, so you can't really mix and match. It just doesn't work. So whatever you're buying, whatever one you like, make sure you stick to that same brand, so then you won't have any issues. So all right, moving on with the two-piece sprocket, you've got obviously a million different options in colors, you know, red, green, purple, blue, yellow. You've got your sprocket, which this is the very first one that I'm fitting, which is a new CNC design that actually has a 3D finish. Normally they're just a flat plate steel with hard anodized edging. So this actually looks so cool, because the stock flat ones are a bit pretty sort of sad, to be honest with you. So this is an awesome design. So you have your sprocket. You obviously need to make sure you get the correct pitch. On the Streetfighter, it's a 525 pitch, and the stock tooth is 42. So we've gone stock just to keep it all sort of, you know, the same gearing and so on. So you've got your outer ring, then you've got your hub adapter, sprocket / hub adapter. So this goes with the actual sprocket and it mounts on like this, if I can do it without damaging it all. So it goes like that. Then you actually get the nuts in the kit, which is great, or the bolts I should say, which goes through, but then you have to buy the actual nuts. So you can, you know, pick which color you want, black, red, green, orange, purple. We're going black. And then you've got the actual nuts for the actual crush hub adapter. So this one here actually goes over and into it, and if I can get it on, because no, it's not going to work, there we go. So that actually goes like that, and then you've got the stock rubber bushings with thread that goes through, and then you can put whichever colored nut that you want to straight on. So that's how it sort of goes, and then you choose whichever big wheel nut color you want. For us, we're not really sure which way to go. Do we go black? Do we go red? Do we go silver? Because remember, the wheels we're getting are gold. So we're going to have to leave that up to the last minute. So I'm just going to put the stock one back on. So we're going to take it off now. And then what I'll do is I will actually build it up for you so you can see how it all goes together and then how you put it back onto the bike. All right, let's go do that now. Okay, so we've removed the factory rear sprocket from the Streetfighter. Now there are a couple of parts you're going to need from it, but before we get into that, another little tip for you. When you do remove the sprocket from your Streetfighter, you may bring along with it this little spacer. So this goes on first to the spindle, then your the hub adapter / sprocket adapter goes onto it. If you miss this off, it's not going to align properly and you're going to have dramas. The other thing we are going to need from the OEM kit is the rubber bushing. So there's 6 of these little bushings with thread coming through. These go into the new spacer, like so, and then the cover goes on and you'll bolt them back up with your nice new nuts. Now, make sure you use thread Loctite, I should say, because they're Loctite from factory and you don't want them spinning off, and also Loctite the spindle or the sprocket nuts as well. So we're going to do that. One thing to also add is, I've done this quite a few times, and one of the biggest things I notice, not only does it look, you know, cool as hell, but the weight. The standard steel sprocket and aluminium cover weighs an absolute ton compared to all of that. So not only does it look good, but it's going to give you a performance advantage on the street and just makes you feel a little bit sort of special and not so bad spending so much money on just something that's kind of pointless but looks cool. So yes, there is a performance advantage. That's why we're doing it for. All right, now I'm going to show you how I build it all up in like a time-lapse thing, and yeah, then we'll fit it up and go from there. Okay. All right, so now we've assembled the 2-piece sprocket that we're going to be fitting to the Streetfighter. So you can see it's a 2-piece. So one good thing about it is if you wear out the sprocket, you can put obviously another sprocket on. But the main reason obviously is it looks really cool. It does weigh a little bit less. So again, like I said, it's performance, but also fuel economy. So you think of the savings you're going to get in having to spend less fuel because you can go further. Yeah, let's just fit it. All right. Oh, and I can't forget this, remember? All right, so the sprocket has been fitted, so we'll do a walk around in a sec so you can see the rear sets and the sprocket all assembled. Now, we're not going to put the gold chain on just yet. I know you're probably a little bit disappointed, but the reason for that is we're getting that new chain guard from Italy from the Panigale, so there's no point putting it on, then having to sort of remove it and fumble around. While we're there, we might as well wait, take it off. When it comes in, then we'll install everything. So on that note as well, it's come to the end of this week's episode, but don't worry, we'll be back next week. Not sure what we're going to do because we're still waiting for a lot of parts and things to come through. We're hoping the CRC finish with the pipework so we can install the Termi system, because I think that's one of the biggest jobs we need to do in order to move forward. So again, thank you so much. Don't forget, if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you all again next week. All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye.